100 episodes of Bookworm in the can. How does it feel, Joe Bulig?
It's kind of weird.
It is.
I think there's so many things that we do different now. I almost decided to go back and listen to episode 1 just for posterity's sake. And I started and said,
Yep.
I'm not doing this.
Rule number 1 for podcasters is you don't go back and re-listen to your old episodes.
No, please no, never. I made it like 4 minutes in. That's about all I made, and I had to let it go.
Yep, we've come a long way since episode 1. It's gotten significantly better, in my opinion. But we're going to do something a little bit different today. We are going to take a look at some of the Bookworm rankings, and we may be making some tweaks to some of those. But before that, I have prepared a quiz for you, Joe.
I'm really scared about this, to be honest. Mike texted me about this. Was it yesterday?
It was yesterday
that you texted me about it, and I don't know how I feel about this.
Yeah, so background on this, I put together an Excel spreadsheet, well, Google Sheets document, which I'll share with you after the fact.
Okay.
Which has every episode, every book, every author, the length of every episode, and every rating that we've had. And I've color-coded the rows for the ones that were double 5s. Those are gold.
Okay.
The ones that are, one of us gave it a 5 and one of us gave it a 4.5. Those are silver.
Okay.
And then there's bronze where we both gave it a 4.5.
All right.
So we've got several gold books, several silver books, and several bronze books.
Okay.
And so I did all this prep. I tabulated all this stuff. And I thought as I was doing this would be really cool to put Joe on the spot if he's game and do a quiz of Bookworm history. So this is the official Bookworm quiz. I designed it in Pages, exported it as a PDF, and there will be a link available in the show notes for people who are listening to this not live. So I haven't exported it yet as we record this. But if you are listening to it in your podcast player, what you can do is you can tap or click that link, download the PDF, take the quiz yourself, and compare your score to Joe's. Because I'm going to give Joe this quiz, and I'm going to keep track of your score as we go. Are you ready?
This is terrifying. Like, I feel like this is one of those quizzes that you should know all the answers to, and you feel like you're not. Like, I feel like I know nothing about what this is about to be. Like, this could be really bad for me.
Well, I will set the stage here. This is not an easy quiz, and I don't expect you to get a ton of these right. I will offer you opportunities for bonus points as we go.
And there's points involved too.
Yes.
Okay.
And
you spent some time on this.
I did. So there's 10 questions, and I also made them all multiple choice. So even if you don't know the answers, but you're a good test taker, maybe you can crack my formula and ace this thing.
Okay.
All right. So let's jump in here.
All right.
Question number 1. This is the easiest question in the whole quiz, but no cheating, no going to your web browser to find this. What day was the first episode of Bookworm published? Is it A, June 24th of 2017, B, July 7th of 2016, C, July 23rd of 2016, or D, July 16th of 2017?
All right, so the thing I know is that it was right before Macstock, and I know it was 4 years ago. Like, those are the things I know. Macstock's always in July. And 4 years would be 19, 18, 17, 16. So it has to be 2016. July in 2016. I should have wrote these down. Can you say those again?
Sure.
Just give me the July and 2016 ones.
Okay. So the 2016 ones are B, July 7th, 2016, or C, July 23rd, 2016.
July 7, 2016.
Final answer?
Sure, final answer.
All right. That is correct.
Yes! Because Macstock isn't that late.
Yeah.
That's my only reference point.
I wanted to make this super hard and go back and find the original notes from episode 1 and ask you when we recorded it, but I couldn't even find that. Because we recorded several and had them in the can before we launched it.
It's in Quip, isn't it?
It could be. I don't remember what tool we were using back then. I know for a while I was keeping book notes and things inside of a separate app, which has been retired since then. So I lost a bunch of my notes from the early episodes. But July 7th, 2016 was the first episode of Bookworm. And I thought maybe you would know this because I tweeted about the 4-year anniversary not too long ago.
Well, I know we're 4 years in because we get roughly 25 episodes in a year, and we're at episode 100. So,
correct.
General math gets me there.
Yep.
It is interesting though that we're recording this on August 17th, and it's interesting. Like, okay, yes, we end up about 25, 26-ish episodes in a year, but if it was July 7, like that tells you that over 4 years we're about a month and a half behind. Not quite, month and 10 days behind of being dead on.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
Well, fun fact, we released 2 episodes actually July 7th. So there were 2 episodes available out of the gate, and then the next one was July 12th, episode 3, and then episode 4 was July 20th. So there were actually 4 episodes in about a 2-week period at the beginning.
Interesting.
And there were periods where things were going on and we didn't get the episode out every week, or every other week. Although lately we've been doing pretty good with that. So hopefully that's in the past.
I hope it is.
All right. So good job. So far you are 100%. Question number 1 correct.
Okay, good. I feel like it's only going to go downhill from here.
All right. Question number 2. How many episodes have not had a rating?
Ooh.
Your options are A, 1, B, 2, C, 3, or D, 4.
Well, I know we had one that we didn't rate with Chris Bailey because it was weird to rate his book in front of him. And then I know we did the extra episode with Nir Eyal, which didn't have a rating to it because it was kind of a bonus episode. Does that one count? Because technically this would be episode 101 if you count that.
That is a good point.
He's getting quiet. I feel like I'm approaching something.
We will include the Nir Eyal interview.
Okay. I can think of 2. I don't think there was a third. I know, like, we've had a couple guests on, but we still did a rating with them because it wasn't their book per se. Like, we had them rated as well. So I'm gonna go with 2. That's my vote.
All right. Well, actually, it is 3. You're right that we didn't do a rating for the Author's Corner with Nir Eyal.
Right.
And you mentioned Chris Bailey, but it was actually Chris Capehart that we had done the interview on his book, Step, because I had met him at a conference. And then the other episode where we did not rate a book was episode 50, where we did the draft.
Oh, I should have known that. I was close. I was really close. I get Chris Bailey and Chris Capehart backwards all the time.
Yeah.
I do. I continually think they are the other person. Consistently. I think if I were to actually meet one or the other, I would no longer have that issue, but...
That is accurate. All right.
Interesting.
So you are 1 for 2.
I was so close. I should have known that one.
You were. Question number 3. How many guest ratings have we had on Bookworm? A, 0, B, 1, C, 2, or D, 3?
I can think of 2 right off the top of my head because I was just talking about this because I know we had Josh Wrench on who did a rating because we did the Dysfunctions of a Team Patrick Lencioni. He joined us for that. We had Sean Blanc on. I don't remember the book we covered with him, but I know we had him on. I assume he did a rating. And I feel like I'm missing one. I'm drawing a blank, but I feel like there was a third. I think there's a third somewhere. This is... I really want to pull up the list. I'm just going to run through it.
No cheating.
Who would the third have been, though? I can't place it. I'm going to say 3, because I'm almost certain there's another one, but I can't think of who it was. Is it 3?
Final answer?
I'll say final answer. There's 3.
All right. Incorrect. There are just the 2.
See, I talked myself out of it.
Yep. But you nailed those 2. I'm impressed. Yeah, so Josh joined us for episode 30, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, and he gave it 4 stars.
Okay.
And then Sean Blanc joined us in episode 22 to talk about the 10X rule by Grant Cardone, and he gave it 4.5 stars.
Okay.
Pretty good.
Interesting.
You talked yourself out of that one.
I did. In my head, like Near gave us a rating or Chris gave us a rating or something like that happened, but I think we just talked about rating with them, and my brain translated it.
All right, so you are 1 for 3 so far. Question number 4. How many total guests have appeared on Bookworm? A, 3, B, 4, C, 5, or D, 6?
Total guests. So we had Chris, Near, Josh, and Sean. I feel like that's it. We've talked about other guests before. This is where I'm going to get screwed over. So we've talked about a number of guests on the show, and we've played around with the idea of having guests on the show in different ways. But those haven't come to fruition in their entirety. What did I just have? I'm going to say 4.
4?
That's going to be my answer. I'm going to say 4.
Final answer.
Yes.
You are incorrect. It is 5. So you mentioned Sean, you mentioned Chris Capehart, you mentioned Josh for the 5 Dysfunctions, and you mentioned Near Isle. You also initially mentioned Chris Bailey, and he joined us at the end of the episode for Hyperfocus, where we nerded out about plain text editors and keyboards.
Yep. See, this is where the whole Chris Capehart, Chris Bailey thing gets really screwed up for
Worked
me.
against
in my head, they're the same person. And I don't know why that is. See, you're like playing into a thing that I have a problem with.
Sorry. All right, question number 5. How many repeat authors have we had on Bookworm?
Ooh.
A, 4, B, 5, C, 6, or D, 7?
All right, so we had Atul Gawande, because we had the Checklist Manifesto and Being Mortal. We have had Patrick Lencioni, Chris Bailey. That's 3. Have we done 2 by Simon Sinek? I don't think we have. We've talked about that one.
I can't tell you that.
Come on. So I can think of 3 at the moment. Can I find them all? Let's see.
Analog cheating.
I totally analog cheating. It's not going to help though. Let's see. Let's see. I feel like we have done 2 by Simon. What's that put me at? 4?
I believe so.
Let's see. 4. I don't think we've done more than that. No, we did. There's Cal Newport. So there's 5. See, part of the problem is I also have like some Gap books that then create doubles.
Yeah.
like, okay, which one of those was Bookworm? I'm gonna say 5. I think we've had 5. That's my final answer.
All right, let me mark that down. B5. That is incorrect. We've actually had 7 repeat authors.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So you mentioned Atul Gawande with the Checklist Manifesto and Becoming Mortal. Being Mortal.
Yep. Being Mortal.
We've had Patrick Lencioni with the 5 Dysfunctions, 3 Big Questions, and The Motive. Chris Bailey with the Productivity Project and Hyperfocus. Cal Newport with Deep Work and Digital Minimalism.
Yep.
Simon Sinek with Start With Why in the Infinite Game.
Yep.
The 2 you missed were David Allen, Getting Things Done,
right.
and then you picked Making It All Work.
Yep.
And then the other one is a fairly recent to the list. That's Ryan Holiday. So we did The Obstacle is the Way a long time ago, and then recently did Stillness is the Key.
Yep, you're right.
So 7 repeat authors.
Huh. That's a lot. That's a lot more than I would have expected us to cover in that span.
I know.
Huh.
All right.
I'm surprised I got to 5, honestly. Now that you say that whole list, like, I'm not sure, like, if you'd caught me on the street and asked that question, like, wait, hold up.
Yeah, I didn't think you would be able to identify them. I thought you would just pick a number and maybe you would guess the right one. But you did better remembering them than I thought you would.
Sure.
I definitely would not have gotten that. All right. So now we've got some length-based questions just because I tabulated all this stuff and I thought this is kind of interesting. So what is the length of the shortest Bookworm episode? Is it A, 52 minutes, 4 seconds, B, 54 minutes, 19 seconds, C, 58 minutes, 53 seconds, or D, 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 16 seconds?
In my head, it was 1 hour 15. So, let's see. I feel like I've seen a 52 before. Let's see, I'm not allowed to go to the website, am I?
Nope. No cheating.
Can I go to my website?
Don't do it.
Because mine has all the durations calculated.
Nope. No cheating.
You can just scan the list. I want to say it's 52 minutes because I feel like in my head I've seen that number in like an RSS feed of durations because I had to build that at one point. This is complete guess off of a very, very, very tiny, vague memory.
All right. Final answer?
Sure.
You are correct.
What?
Yep. And now the bonus question. What episode was that?
Oh, gosh. I have no... It would have to be an early one because we got longer.
Yep.
Over time. Is it like Peter Drucker's book? Because it was such a short book.
Managing Oneself, episode 13.
Yeah. Right. That would be a guess. But this whole question is a complete guess.
That is incorrect. So no bonus point. The book was The Obstacle is the Way, episode 4 by Ryan Holiday. Which I kind of can't believe we went through that whole book in 52 minutes.
I know. I totally would have expected that to be a lot longer than that.
Yep, me too.
Interesting. Okay.
All right. Question number 7. What is the length of the longest Bookworm episode? 1 hour, 57 minutes, 38 seconds. 1 hour, 59 minutes, 24 seconds. 2 hours, 17 minutes, 48 seconds, or 2 hours, 18 minutes, and 22 seconds.
See, putting 2 of them like within a minute of each other is just mean.
Well, you would be surprised how many of the times we're actually very close to each other.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I'm pretty certain it's over 2 hours. Because I feel like I've seen a 2.
This is awesome. I was totally in your head when I was making this.
Yeah.
You're making the exact logical deductions that I was hoping you would make.
This is almost scary. Oh, let's see. I'm pretty certain I've seen a 2-hour deal. Whether it's 17 or 18, I have no recollection of that at all. So it would just be a complete guess on this. And Isaac is absolutely correct in the chat. Sup, dude? I'm going to guess the 2 hours, 18 minutes. That's my guess.
All right. D, 2 hours, 18 minutes, 22 seconds.
Yes.
That is incorrect.
Is it the 17?
Yes. So episode 56, Hyperfocus with Chris Bailey, because we had the interview with Chris at the end, was 2 hours, 17 minutes, and 48 seconds. So the correct answer is C. Now, I thought that you might just go for the longest one. So I wanted to make sure there was a longer option.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that.
So the other one is made up.
Thanks.
But there is one that's very close to that, which was The One Thing, episode 60, which was not a special episode, just a normal episode. That was less than a minute shorter, 2 hours, 16 minutes, 57 seconds. So we have had some very long episodes. We have tried over time. You have tried to rein me in, get me closer to an hour and a half.
I try to every time. Like 90 minutes is kind of where I feel they should be.
Yeah.
If not like 80.
So that's where we shoot for. But
it doesn't really get there ever.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay. But yeah, we have had some over 2 hours, well over 2 hours. So interesting. Okay.
All right. So since you now know what we are shooting for with the episodes, and you know that we tend to go long, and you know that the earlier episodes were shorter, question number 8, what is the average length of a Bookworm episode?
Ooh.
Is it 1 hour, 49 minutes, 13 seconds? That's option A. Option B, 1 hour, 35 minutes, 7 seconds. C, 1 hour, 36 minutes, 12 seconds. Or D, 1 hour, 38 minutes, and 46 seconds.
Those are all really close to each other. Huh. I don't feel like an hour 49 is too long for that. Like, I feel like it's too, like, we do shoot for an hour 30, and we have had some super short ones that I'm sure are throwing the average there a bit. My thinking says it's probably like an hour 36, but I also feel like you're possibly playing games with me on that.
I'm definitely playing games with you at this point.
Okay. So, knowing that when we record, generally the recording files are about an hour 45. Like, that much I have a pretty good feel on. At least that's what my recorded files are, generally. And I know that we edit those down, but not a ton. At least you do.
So option A is off the table then, right? 1 hour, 49 minutes, 13 seconds.
Correct.
Okay.
Because we shoot for an hour 30 and we're rarely there, I don't think it's the hour 35, which makes me think it's possibly not the 36, which makes me think it is the hour 38. That's going to be my guess. All right, so hour 38, 46 seconds. That's my guess.
All right, option D, that's your final answer, is incorrect. It is actually 1 hour, 35 minutes and 7 seconds.
I knew you were playing.
So we're not far off of what we've been shooting for.
Well, yeah, but when you throw in the 52-minute pieces into the average...
Yeah, there weren't that many of those. There were only, let's see, two episodes that were less than an hour.
Sure, but still, it's half.
Yep.
Interesting.
True. The total time, by the way, fun fact, is 156 hours, 56 minutes, and 1 second.
Wow.
So if you were to start and just play through the entire Bookworm catalog, it would take you 6 days, 12 hours, 56 minutes.
Just play it, start to finish.
To play every episode
Interesting.
before this one.
Interesting.
Yeah. Not bad for a couple of introverts.
So to stream the other, what is it? It's 100 episodes. So this is actually the 101st time, but we had like the bonus one thrown in. So if you listen to those 100 episodes, it would take you over 6 days to do it. Huh.
Yeah, and actually, I did not put the Author's Corner episode in this.
Okay.
I accounted it because of your thought process.
Sure.
When you were trying to figure out the guests and the rankings.
Yes.
So I kind of modified that on the fly.
Okay, sure.
Once I saw where your brain was going.
Yes.
But that's not part of the Bookworm canon, so to say.
Yeah,
so
the core episodes. Sure. I get it.
Yep.
Makes sense. You totally played games with me on that average.
Now let's switch into some of the ratings.
Okay.
All right. So what is the lowest rating ever given on Bookworm? Is it 0.5 stars, 1.0 stars, 1.5 stars, or 2.0 stars?
2.0.
2.0. Final answer.
I think, let's see. Because I know we just did the Crossroads, and that was, I think, my lowest, which was 2.0. And I think 2.0. Wait, what did you rate the? Oh shoot! What's the book? Your favorite? I can't. I'm totally drawing a blank. The Art of Asking. Amanda Palmer. There you go. Yeah, Otter got it for me. What was that one? What did you rate that one? I don't think you rated it 1.5, did you? It's not 1.0. I know it's not 1.0. I know it's not 0.5. It's either 1.5 or 2.0. It's one of those two. I know that. I think you rated it 1.5 though. You're just smiling at me.
I just enjoy watching you go through this.
This is maddening.
This is so entertaining.
Okay. Because I'm pretty sure that I rated the Crossroads at 2.0. And I think you potentially beat me on that. Because we were talking about this a few episodes ago about the lowest rating. I think it's 1.5. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to say 1.5.
All right. So you're changing your answer. C, correct?
Yes.
1.5. That's your final answer.
Sure. Yeah.
You are correct.
Yes.
1.5. Now, the bonus question, and I think I know what your answer is going to be, but I just want to hear it formally from you.
Yep.
What book was that rating for?
It was The Art of Asking. You did it.
That is incorrect.
What?
So The Art of Asking is episode 35.
Okay.
And I gave it 2.0.
Oh, really? I thought you went lower than that.
No, I gave The Art of Asking the same score you gave The Crossroads of Should and Must just
that'll
a couple
tell
of
you
episodes
how I feel
ago.
about Crossroads.
Yep. But the 1.5, I did give a book a 1.5, and that was episode 89, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You are correct.
So I disliked that one even more than The Art of Asking.
Interesting. That's good to know.
An Awful Otter, I did not burn it because I never actually owned it. I listened to it. I started to read it. I borrowed it from the library. I'm like, I can't do this. So I got the audio book and just listened to it on my run. Which was the same thing that did with the Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, by the way.
Interesting.
Yep.
Good to know.
Those are the only two books I have not been able to force myself to read a physical book to get through it.
And you had to listen to them.
Yep.
Interesting. Well, that's fascinating. I would not I don't remember. Like, I don't have a memory of you rating that one at 1.5.
Yep.
I don't. But that might be because we make fun of the art of asking so much. But
yes, the Funky Mosquito. It's fiction and terrible. I agree. Oh man,
too good. All right.
I got another idea here for bonus questions. So I'm going to insert. There'll be 11 questions here.
Okay.
So question number 10 now, since I have this also. What is the average Bookworm rating? Is it A, 3.9, B, 4.0, C, 4.1, or D, 4.2?
That's specific.
It is specific.
That's really specific. I feel like we've had a lot of like 3.5s, maybe some 3s. I know we've had a lot of 4.5s and 4.0s too. So putting these guesses around 4.0 is wise and cruel. Let's see. My thinking is we are probably higher than 4.0 because I feel like we tend to go 4 and up because we choose books that we speculate we'll like, generally. Every once in a while we have oddballs like, Zen or The Crossroads, where one of us likes it, the other one not so much, which is always entertaining. But then that throws in the odd 2.5 rating, 3.0 rating, which would bring it down, which makes me think it's probably like 4.1. Because I know we've had, that might be high though. I feel like you're playing games again and it's probably just straight up 4.0 as you nod at me. Are you giving things away?
I totally am playing games with you.
Totally are. This is kind of cruel. Why did I agree to this? Why?
Because this is going to be so fun to listen to. And it's very fun to watch.
Hey, at least I'm talking out loud or thinking out loud. This could be really weird if I just thought to myself. I'm thinking, what am I thinking? I'm thinking it could be all of these. I don't think it's 4.2. I think it's one of the other three. So 3.9, 4.0, 4.1. But where do I go with that? I don't know. I think I'm going to say 3.9. Because I'm kind of just guessing here.
All right.
Because just from what I remember seeing, like overall banks of ratings, it feels like it's a little bit below 4. But that's kind of just guessing. Because, memory with this sort of thing is relative.
Yep.
So I'm going to say 3.9.
All right. That is incorrect.
Yeah, I kind of
The correct answer, I thought you were going to get it, was 4.1.
Yeah, I could see it. I didn't think you would pick 4.0. Like, I don't think it would be dead on, but.
Now, interestingly, I tabulated the average for both you and myself with our ratings.
Okay.
And they both came to 4.1.
Really? Interesting.
Yes. But bonus question, who has the higher total point value from all of the ratings? You or me?
Me.
Correct.
I feel like I tend to be a little more generous with book ratings.
It's really close. You have 400 total points. I'm at 397.5.
Oh, that's like that's like no statistical difference there.
Exactly, which is why it's the same 4.1, which is why I threw that question on there. I thought that was kind of interesting that we both have like the same statistical average for the ratings that we give books.
That is interesting.
And we were so close.
Huh. Fascinating.
All right, last question that I have for you before we get into the rating fixing scheme of 2020.
Yeah.
How many double 5-star books have there been?
Ooh.
A, 9, B, 10, C, 11, or D, 12?
I will just have to straight up guess on this. I think it's probably 12 because I feel like we've had quite a few. But it just has to be a straight up guess because there's enough of them that I'm not going to go through and come up with them. If you had said like 5 or 9 or 18, like I could probably try to get there, but because you're putting them so close together, it's just kind of guessing. So I'd say 12.
All right. So 12 out of 98.
Mm-hmm.
When we do a book, there is a 12.2% chance that we will both rate it 5 stars.
Sure. Seems kind of high.
That is correct.
Is it? Nice.
Yep. Nice job. Now I have a list of all of the double 5-star books.
See, I need to stop talking my way through it because I talk myself out of answers. Just straight up guess.
Since we have 11 questions and you are currently at 5 points, I will give you a bonus point for each double 5-star book that you can name.
Ooh. Okay. Well, I know we did at the very beginning with getting things done. So that one I know. Man's Search for Meaning. I think we did it. We had more early on, I think. Essentialism? I would say, did we do double 5s on Principles? I'm kind of cheating in that I'm looking at the books. Is that bad? Should I not do that?
Nah, go for it.
I'm pretty sure we did with Second Mountain. Hyperfocus. What else did we do here? We didn't do that one for Bookworm. 40X? Did we do double 5s on that one? I feel like there are some things we probably complained about on that one, so probably not.
All right, so don't put that one on the list?
No.
Okay.
We didn't with Flow when we thought we would. The Obstacle is the Way. Start with Why. I feel like I'm going to give you more than 12. It's kind of just.
I'm going to cut you off at 12.
Okay.
So I have The Obstacle is the Way. Start with Why. That sounded like a question. Do you want that one on the list?
No.
Okay.
The One Thing. I know the 4-Hour Workweek didn't make it. Let's see. What else?
You're at 7, so you got 5 more.
Oh, jeez. It has to be doubles. There was... I can't see it. I know I can think of it. Make Time. I was like, wait, what did we rate the Productivity Project? All right. We did not do Paid to Think. I know that. That was fun. I can't think of any more, though.
You want me to read back your list so far?
Sure.
I got GTD, Man's Search for Meaning, Essentialism, Second Mountain, Hyperfocus, Obstacles the Way, The One Thing, and Make Time.
Essentialism.
I said that one.
Managing Oneself?
That sounded like a question again. Is that on the list?
Yeah, I put them both on the list. Extreme Ownership. Did we just do... So with the most recent Ryan Holiday book, I can't think of the name of it right now. Why can I not think? Stillness is the Key. Oh, Atomic Habits. So Stillness is the Key, Atomic Habits, and Deep Work. Am I over 12 yet?
You are, but I'll allow it.
Okay. All right, I'll quit.
All right, Stillness is the Key, Atomic Habits, and Deep Work, you said?
Yeah. Do I need to pull one off?
Sure. Which one you want to pull off?
Let's pull off Essentialism.
All right, so here's your list.
Okay.
GTD, Man's Search for Meaning, Second Mountain, Hyperfocus, Obstacles the Way, The One Thing, Managing Oneself, Make Time, Extreme Ownership, Stillness is the Key, Atomic Habits, and Deep Work. That's your 12, right?
I'll go with that. I don't know what I would change.
All right, so let me just do these one at a time, okay?
Though part of me thinks 12-week years on there, but I don't know what I would change it out with.
All right, so the first one was GTD. That is incorrect. You gave it 5-0. I gave it 4-0.
Oh, I was thinking we doubled up right at the beginning.
Nope. Well,
Okay.
we did, but not for that book. The second book we covered was The Willpower Instinct by Kelly McMonigal, and we both gave that 5 stars.
Got it. Okay.
All right. The next one you mentioned was Man's Search for Meaning.
Yep.
And that was indeed a 5-star book. That was episode 44.
Okay.
Then you said Second Mountain. All right. Now, Second Mountain was not on the list. I'm trying to find that specific episode and see what the final score was for that. All right. So Second Mountain, we actually both gave 4.5.
Oh, that was close.
Yep.
So it was a silver book.
That's a bronze book. A silver would be a 4.5 and a 5.
Oh, right. Got it.
All
That's
right.
close.
The next one that you said was Hyperfocus by Chris Bailey.
Yep.
That is incorrect. That was also a double 4.5.
Okay.
The next one you said was The Obstacle is the Way. That one didn't even make the podium. I gave that a 5.0. You gave that a 4.0.
Okay.
Which is kind of interesting, and why we're going to get into what we're going to do next is like,
Yep.
we think back on these books and we're like, why did I give it that rating?
Yep. It's so true.
So that's interesting. And then the one thing, let's see, where was that one? All right, that was episode 60, and that one also didn't make the podium because I gave it 5 stars and you gave it 4.
See, I'm like putting your ratings up there,
Yeah.
which is weird. Don't you love how memory works?
Right.
Like this is like it on display or lack thereof.
You did pull out Managing Oneself, which I didn't even remember going through that book until I started compiling this list.
Yeah.
But we did both give that one 5 stars. So nice job picking that one. That was episode 13.
Woot woot.
The next one you said was Make Time by Jake Knapp and John Zaratsky. That was episode 72. That was also a 5-star book. So nice job on that one. You said Extreme Ownership. That was episode 66. That was a double 5-star.
Woot woot.
Stillness is the Key, episode 95. That was a recent one. That was also a double 5-star. So you got better as we went along here.
You're making me feel better now.
Then you mentioned Atomic Habits, which was episode 63. That was also a 5-star book. And the last one you snuck on that list was Deep Work, episode 7. That was also a double 5-star book. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of 12 for this bonus round, which puts you at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 total points.
Out of 11.
Yeah, it's a good job. You aced it.
Thanks for the extra credit. I'd been screwed without it.
You want to know the other 5-star books that we did not mention here?
Yes. What'd I miss?
All right, so I mentioned The Willpower Instinct, which was episode 2. Episode 18, Decisive by Chip and Dan Heath, was a double 5-star book. Principles, episode 80, which you asked as a question. I know you were mulling that out as you were thinking out loud, but that was a double 5-star book.
That was because it was a reread for me when we did it for Bookworm.
Yep.
And I think there have only been a couple, maybe 3, where I've done a reread for them.
Sure.
And I thought in my head, every time I've done a reread, I didn't put it at a 5.
Got it.
That's what is in my head. So that's why I backed off of that one. But I shouldn't have, obviously.
That makes sense. It's a good book, though.
Yep.
The others were episode 86, The Art of Gathering, and episode 94, Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg. So 2 of the 12 5-star books were habit books.
Yep.
I think 2 out of the 3 that we've read, because the other one was the
Well, you
power.
throw Make Time in there, and
Yeah, that's true.
Like-
That's true. Explicitly habit books, I should say, because the other big one we covered was The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, which neither of us liked very much.
right, yeah, and I think it was because we read it after one of the others. I think,
Right. So,
and we should have done it before.
so this last question, this is really at the heart of the original idea that I floated to you several weeks ago. So thank you for humoring me and being the guinea pig for the the quiz.
Yep.
I thought this was great, though. I hope other people enjoyed this.
That's a trip down memory lane for sure.
Yep.
Interesting.
But this is the original thing that got me thinking was I had that question in my head. How many 5-star books, double 5-star books have we had on Bookworm?
Sure.
Turns out there's 12. I've also been thinking a lot about, as I've been collecting this stuff and putting these things into Rome Research. I have audio of all the files. I've got the ratings, all my notes and everything. And as I was putting those in, it was interesting to me what I rated some of these older books. So I wanted to take a trip down memory lane. We did the quiz at the first part of this. And then the next part, we are going to go in and change up to 5 ratings in the canonical Bookworm rating. So I'm going to take notes on this spreadsheet that I've got right here, and then I'm going to go back and update the actual website. So I apologize to whoever put that original graph together. That's about to change. But this will be fun. So you can adjust it up or down. There are no limitations, but we're going to go back and forth. And since I made you take the quiz, I will also let you go first for changing the ratings if you'd like.
Okay. Thanks for that. Because then I get like free reign to do what I want. So thanks for that. I think for the first one that I would change, all right, because I've spent a little bit of time thinking this through and trying to okay, because what I wanted to do is take a look at, for me, most of these are up. And it's because of longevity in my thinking, like the ones that have had a long-term impact. But when we read them, I didn't rate them very well. And the first of those, I might be stealing from you, is How to Read a Book by Mortimer Adler. And we originally rated this, we both rated it at 4.0. Mm-hmm. And to me, because of the longevity of this, I think I need to put it at 5. Because, here's why. Every time I pick up a book, it doesn't matter if it's fiction, it doesn't matter if it's nonfiction, if it's poetry, if it's philosophy, the Bible, it doesn't matter what I pick up, that book comes back to me in the back of my head. And the process of how you go through a book, for example, here's a great example. I get a new nonfiction book. If you're watching the video, I'm pointing at a stack of books behind me. If you're picking up a new one, what I have a tendency to do, because of reading How to Read a Book, I will look at the cover, I'll flip it over, read the back, I'll read the table of contents, I'll kind of flip through it, see what kind of graphs and stuff, and if there aren't any pictures, read some of the chapter titles, try to get a feel for what's some of the terminology that they're using in the book. That sort of thing I never used to do. And I feel like I get a much better read on a book if I go through that process. But that's all because of Adler's book here. So I feel like it has to go up. And that's easily the number one book that I find myself referencing when I thought, when we read it, that it's okay. So it needs to go up, in my opinion. Did I steal it from you?
Well, there's both your ratings and my ratings, so not necessarily.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yep. So you can take it too.
But my first pick is not going to be How to Read a Book. I understand the reasoning behind it, and I agree with your reasoning for bumping that up to a 5.0. I am going to go to episode 39, Mindset by Carol Dweck, which is already in the silver tier because you rated it 5.0 and I rated it 4.5. I am going to change my rating from 4.5 to 5.0 because this book has really been influential. And this is probably the book that I refer back to the most out of anything that we have read. And I really enjoyed it when we went through it, which is why it's a silver book currently. But it deserves gold medal status, especially compared to some of the other books that are on the gold medal list.
Sure.
Which maybe we'll take care of that in a little bit too. But
sure.
So my first pick, Mindset, I'm changing that to 5.0. So that's another double 5 book.
Sure. All right. So another one I'm going to change. I'm going to send this one down. So this may help your gold status book and change that the other way. Make Time, I think, needs to be dethroned because it's a double 5.0 right now. And I'll be honest with you, it was one of those books that when you read it, it can be quite motivating and can give you a lot of like small ideas. I have referenced that book exactly 0 times.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, I don't pull that thing up at all. And whenever when I'm looking for some of that motivation or just trying to reference books about like time management and that sort of thing, I'll tend to pull out like 168 Hours or one of the habit books. I'll never pull out Make Time. Like it doesn't even cross my mind that that's something I should go look at. So I need to dethrone it. I'm not going to take it very far. I'll just put it at 4.5.
Okay.
But I don't think for me, I don't think it qualifies as a 5.0 anymore.
Sure. That's really the cool thing about thinking about all of these is you have a different feeling. To Awful Otter's point, it's super interesting how some books are better in hindsight and some are worse.
Right.
Make Time specifically is interesting to me because I reference that one all the time.
Do you?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never pulled it off the shelf once.
I have quoted that book, I think 3 separate times in my Mindfulness Monday stuff.
Yeah. Interesting.
So 2 very different paths from the recording date on that one, which is what's a little bit surprising to me, but that's cool. All right. So you're putting that at 4.5.
Yep.
All right. And then my second one, man, there's so many I want to do, and I'm trying to decide the order here. I've got one that I'm going to keep for a little bit of a surprise later, I think. I'm going to go back to episode 12, The Innovator's Dilemma by Morton Christensen.
Ooh, okay.
At the time, I rated this 3.5 and you rated it 3.0.
Yep.
And I think everything I said in that episode, I would still stand by that it reads like a college textbook and it's super dry and boring. But looking back, I learned so much from that book.
Sure.
That is the stereotypical nonfiction book that you don't want to go through, but you force yourself to go through it. It's like eating your vegetables, and then like it changes the way that you think about things. I remember the example they had of Kodak in that one about the digital cameras. There was the stories about the steel. I mean, there's so many business lessons which are fascinating to me now that I've got some space from having to go through that book itself. And I know he passed away not too long ago. I kind of want to go back and read something else by him now. It's kind of like I understand now why he was such a big deal, because that stuff really stuck with me.
Sure.
And yeah, it was distasteful the first time that we went through it, but I kind of think, maybe I've just grown up a little bit since we read that one. My perspective has changed a little bit. But that stuff is fascinating to me now. Like one of my favorite podcasts I'm listening to, I'm paying for the Dithering podcast that Ben Thompson and John Gruber do. And it's really fascinating to hear them go back and forth on different company perspective stuff. And that reminds me a lot of like that book, The Innovator's Dilemma by Morton Christensen. I feel like, if he were to join in a conversation, that's kind of what it would sound like. So makes me want to go back and give him another shot. So I'm going to bump that up from 3.5 to 4.5.
Sure. All right. What are we on? Choice number 3 now?
Yep.
I'm going to go back to episode 26. This is The Sleep Revolution by Ariana Huffington. You rated it at 4.5. I rated it at 4.0. And The odd thing about that book, yes, it's about sleep, but my health has been very different since we read that book. So when we first read that, I was 100% healthy at the time, at least in theory. And since then, I contracted Lyme disease. I beat Lyme disease, have a carryover mold infection, and I'm now on the outtick side of a mold infection, which in theory is my last step. But that's been almost a 2-year, well, it has been a 2-year process. So what I have learned in the span of that time period is that the number one way I've been healing is with like some herbal supplement mechanisms. The second is sleep. So those two pieces have been 95% of my healing process. And the interesting thing about it is that I've learned that the sleep side of it helps all the other pieces. So the other pieces actually don't really work without the sleep piece. So maybe sleep's the most important. I've gone back over the last 2 years. I've referenced that book probably at least every month in the last 2 years and have continually found things in it that show me like I'm not doing things well and I need to improve different areas and such. And I've realized just how important that is. You don't really notice that if you really pay attention to me. I always get these bags under my eyes. My physique just does that. Whether I slept well or not, I always have bags under my eyes, and it's
Me too.
maddening.
The struggle is real.
People point it out all the time. It's like, I'm not putting on makeup, but I slept 9 hours last night. I promise.
That's why I wear glasses all the time instead of contacts, because I got the same thing.
I know. I have really debated doing like the whole blue light glasses thing just to help cover some of that up, but details. Anyway, what I'm getting at is the Sleep Revolution, I feel like needs to be a 5.0 book for me. That is one that I originally rated at 4.0. You have it at 4.5, but I think it needs to be a 5.0 for me because it's become such a huge, like a reference book, but also such an important concept, and the material of it is super important to me. So that one needs to go up.
Cool. So that is now a silver medal book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Where I think it should be.
Cool. All right. I need to be a little mean now. Dethrone something.
Uh-oh. You're going to uprate The Art of Asking?
No.
At least I got a hesitation.
No. Looking through the list of double 5-star books,
Yeah.
I feel like there's one on there that really just does not deserve to be there, and that is The Willpower Instinct. And, maybe I need to go back and read that book again in order for it to impact me the same way. But I think my thought process on the whole concept of willpower has changed a little bit since I read that book. I remember reading that book and thinking, oh, this is the secret to all self-improvement. If I just manage my willpower, this is going to be easy. But everybody knows like that's a piece of it. And that can be a really big discovery when you come across it and you realize that, all the stupid decisions that you're forcing yourself to make, that really does take a toll on your mental ability. And so you will find yourself not being able to do the things you really want to do later on in the day. But I also kind of think to a certain degree, willpower doesn't really matter anymore. Like it's a real thing, but it's not the one thing that is going to determine whether you're successful in implementing the habits that you want to create. I feel like motivation is more important than willpower in a lot of instances. And I also feel that motivation can be created. This is an extreme example, but as a parent, if your kids are in danger, it doesn't matter how much willpower you have left. You all of a sudden have the motivation to save them from physical harm. I mean, you hear stories about these little old ladies who their kid is trapped under a car and they summon the strength, like lift the car off the kid. That has nothing to do with willpower, physical strength. That's totally adrenaline and motivation. Like, I got to save my kid. And obviously you don't want to live in that heightened state of fight versus flight all the time. But I do think that you can kind of hack that a little bit and you can create your own motivation to do things. And that's what a lot of like goal setting, fear setting, whatever version of it you want to consider, that's what a lot of it is reminding yourself, hey, you said you wanted to do this and this is why. And whether you achieve that goal or not has nothing to do with the amount of willpower you're able to successfully manage. Because I can also tell you that I can set up my systems for peak efficiency in order to manage my own willpower, and I'm not the only one that's living in my house at the moment, or like
Sure.
I'm working at home. Everybody's home all the time. We're in the middle of this pandemic. Like, things never go according to plan. Everything is going to get jacked up. It's just, how jacked up is it going to get? And at that point, what's the point in trying to control all these systems and optimize the willpower? Because you just got to be flexible and go with the flow. So I used to be that way, and I used to get really upset when someone would barge into my office and, hey, I want to do this with you now, Dad. And I've shared on the podcast, like, I'm trying to train myself just to go with that and go build the train track or do the puzzle or shoot hoops or whatever. That's way less stressful than getting upset about how my perfect systems to manage my willpower are now useless.
Sure.
So I'm going to bring this down from 5 stars, which is what I originally had it at, to 4.0. Still think it's a good book, but it is no longer on the podium.
Sure. Well, I'm going to feel mean doing what I'm about to do then. Because this is 4, right? I'm on to 4.
Yep.
All right, let's go to episode 94. Do I dare say what the book is? I'm not. I'm just going to say. It's episode 94. He's going to go look now.
I got the spreadsheet right here. I'm just letting you talk.
All right. So episode 94 is Tiny Habits. Currently a double 5-0 that needs dethroned, I think. And I'm sorry to say that. Because we've done enough of these habit and routine-based books that, like, that's where I feel like I'm spending a lot of my re-rating time here. Maybe I'm not entirely, but at least on 2 of them. And it's because I feel like I've figured out which ones are better than the others from a longevity stance. Not just a, in this moment, give me motivation to do a thing. This is, if you want something that will stick with you for a long time, I don't think Tiny Habits is it. Yes, the concept is really good of building really small habits and letting those build into bigger ones. I find myself referencing Atomic Habits significantly more than that. And this is partly why, like, my wife throws a fit because she really wants me to get rid of all the books. And I always look up because these are all the Bookworm books, plus these.
Blasphemy.
I know. And I have a tendency to reference these books on a regular basis, like certain ones. Like if I'm struggling with motivation or if I'm struggling with getting a routine in a certain way built, like, why is that? And I'll go reference some of my notes in the books themselves. Whenever I have some form of like a habit that I'm struggling to break or build, I go to Atomic Habits every time to start. Sometimes I then go to Tiny Habits. Sometimes I then go into The Power of Habit. But I always start with Atomic Habits, which makes me think I shouldn't have Tiny Habits at the same level as Atomic Habits. So I don't want to pull it far off. So I'm just going to move it from 5.0 to 4.5. So I don't think it needs to come that far off, but I do think I want Atomic Habits slightly above it. That has, like, it's one of those, I would rather raise the rating on Atomic Habits, but I can't. So I need to back this one off. So
all right,
there's my thought process.
Okay. Well, to be fair, there were 2 Habits books, which were both 5.0s, and I had the same thought. I'm like, these shouldn't both be 5.0s.
Yeah.
Although Tiny Habits is my favorite, so I'm tempted to
over Atomic?
throw in Atomic Habits, which is kind of interesting.
Right.
Again, which books really impact us as we get further from them. My implementation of it, though, was a little bit different, and maybe it was just the timing, because I was reading Tiny Habits as I was working on the Habits course for the Sweet Setup. And I feel like there's a lot more to grab onto from Tiny Habits in terms of teaching people how to implement successful habits than the James Clear book. Like the 4 laws that he talks about, it provides a solid framework for the rest of the book, and it sounds really good, but you my opinion, going through that book, you feel like this guy's really smart. He's got this figured out and I know what to do, but I'm not sure I can do it. Whereas BJ Fogg's book, it's like, oh, this is all emotional, behavior-driven stuff, and if I just put the right triggers in place, then I can control this. I feel like that one gives beginners a little bit more hope, but they're both really good. And I agree. I agree. There should just be one of those on the list. I'm not going to demote Atomic Habits, so I'm going to leave that one.
Thanks.
There's a different book I want to demote because I was going through and highlighting all the gold, silver, and bronze books. There's a lot of them that just missed that were really, really good. But there's one on this list that I'm like, why is this on here?
Yeah.
And that is The Question Behind the Question. Do you remember this book?
I remember the book, but if I were to sit down right now and try to explain it to you, it would be vague.
Exactly. So this was episode 17, and we both gave it 4.5 stars. So it is a bronze medal book right now. And as I was going through this, I'm like, that cannot be. When we are looking at things like the obstacle is the way, the war of art not being on this list, how can the question behind the question be there? And I don't really have anything really bad to say about this book other than looking at the other ones. It's kind of like the Sesame Street things. One of these things is not like the others. One of these things just doesn't belong, and that is the question behind the question.
Sure.
So I also remember this being a very short book, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but the further we get along with Bookworm, the more I realize that this book just really doesn't fit the standard Bookworm format. And that's not necessarily a good or a bad thing, but I think the rating should take that into consideration. So when we're taking making a list of the very best Bookworm books of all time, how does this even qualify? So I want to dock it, a half a point for me not remembering anything from the book, basically, and another half a point for it just being an oddball of a book. And I'm glad that we cover those sometimes. But again, this just should not be on the podium. So we both give it 4.5. I'm going to change mine from 4.5 to 3.5.
Okay.
There are a lot of other books on this list that I've rated 4.0, which looking back, I think these are better books than Question Behind the Question.
Yeah. All right. So I'm stepping into my last, right? We get to do 5.
5 official ones. I'd be willing to go an extra bonus round if you have another one you want to change.
I don't know if I do. The other one that I feel like should be like up in that but bronze status that's not. And it has to do with like how often I find myself reflecting on the content or pulling the book out itself. And this has to go all the way back to episode 3, The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. And this is where this concept of resistance comes in. And you rated it 4.5, I rated it 4.0. And I don't think I'm going to put it at 5, but I'll put it at 4.5. Simply because I think it needs to get up in that top level of books. Like it needs to get up to those. So I think that's where it needs to be. And again, this is because so much of what I do, whether it's creating content or writing code or running events, those are all very creative endeavors. And although I tend to be fairly particular with how I define art, the translation of those concepts work really well outside the world of art, even if you're considering the world of writing to be artwork. So I think that to me needs to come up into like level 3 of books, if you want to call it that, bronze level, as you're calling it. So I think it needs to come up there just because like the concepts there are very core to the making of a thing on a regular basis. It's super important. So I look at that one a lot.
Sure. Nice. And that is kind of to my point, like Question Behind the Question doesn't deserve to be there.
Yeah, it shouldn't
because
be up there.
That one is not higher than the War of Art, or it shouldn't be.
I get you.
Cool. All right. My last one, and this is the one I'm expecting a reaction from you.
Okay.
Episode 68, How to Take Smart Notes by Sankey Aarons.
Oh, my word.
I am bumping this to 4.5. I recently reread this, and it was a totally different book to me this time. And the context of me rereading it was my obsession with Rome research. There it is. I was trying to figure out how I could possibly capture this system that he's talking about in a way that would actually work for me. And I know you don't have to use an app. You've got a analog Zettelkasten note card box thing that you made. I have never seen anyone use one of those successfully. If it's working for you, that's cool. But there's no way that I would be able to do that. And when I read that book the first time, I had the same reaction when he was describing the system. I'm like, well, that sounds cool, but there's no way that I'd be able to do that. Rome Research has allowed me to do that. And I can't even really explain what the linchpin is to that whole system working, but it helps me to think. It helps me to make the connections. I guess there's a term for this. It's like digital gardening, which I don't understand at all, but it's like you go in there and you just kind of follow the rabbit trails and you clean things up and you figure out the connections, and then you kind of get inspired, and then there's the thing that you're going to write about. I've seen that happen a lot for me recently, and I'm not even to the point where like everything is in there.
Sure.
I do have all my sermon notes and stuff in there, and that's been really cool. I've mentioned before, like if that's the only thing that I got out of the app, it's probably still worth it for me. But I totally see how this influences all of the things that I would be writing and how it makes me a better writer. And so it's already producing fruit and making it easier for the stuff that I have to write for the suite setup, because I have thoughts on pages for, different things that happen, habits, goals, productivity, like all that kind of stuff. I've got all these quotes that I collect, and it's easy to find them and use them in different things. So it's influenced not only in my writing at the suite setup, it's influenced like my speech writing for Toastmasters. I have no doubt this is going to bleed over into every other area of my life and every other thing that I write.
Sure.
But I'm in this for the long haul. And I think that this book, if I would have noticed it the first time, would have had this sort of impact on me. But I needed to be in the right spot and be looking at it through a certain lens of this is how this can be implemented in order for it to really speak to me. And I know the cover is printed upside down, backwards, whatever, and for an English book.
It's so wrong. There's so much wrong.
It sits weird on the shelf. But I really do think there's a lot of power in those ideas. And it's not, again, one of those entertaining reads. It's kind of like The Innovator's Dilemma, where it's a slog to get through it, but it's really powerful. I think it's transformational for people who consider themselves to be creative. Anybody who like writes or not just writing like blog posts, but videos. I mean, I've been using it a lot for that as I'm cranking out a new course for the suite setup that we're working on. Like this is a phenomenal tool, and there's several things that set it apart from everything else that's out there. I'm sure it's not always going to be the case. I know there's other stuff that's going to come, and note-taking apps are kind of evolving based on Rome's influence. Like Drafts is adding like the wiki style links, and on one level, people look at that and like, there, it's the same thing. No, it's not the same thing. If you really dig into it, you'll realize why it's not the same thing. But if it's good enough for you, that's fine. And I think it's going to take the note-taking apps in general to a whole new level. But this whole idea of how to take smart notes specifically, this is a game changer, especially if you're interested in reading these books and connecting these ideas, which is the whole point for us doing this podcast. So I feel like I finally got out of that book what I should have got the first time. And I think it's a very influential book. And the further that I get from it, it's just going to be more and more important. It's going to be the second time that I read this, that's the season of my life where I changed things for the better, and I started using Rome Research to connect all of these things. It feels like a significant tipping point in my creative journey.
Sure. I have a note on my notebook right in front of me that I wrote down before you even jumped on this Zoom call. It says, Mike will upgrade how to take smart notes to 5.0.
Not 5 because
I wrote that down.
Yeah.
So this is not a curveball. In fact, you didn't go as far as I thought you would.
Yeah. Well, I still think it's formatted weird and it's hard to get through, which is my big beef with it. It could be better, but it is. Ideas are powerful for sure.
Yeah. You probably saw, if you're watching the video, you saw me flipping through my notebook. I have a video for YouTube that I'm in the middle of working on. The title of said video is, Do You Really Need a Zettelkasten? Creators Want You To.
You don't. That's the thing. Like, what you've been doing is totally fine. Anybody who's listening to this. But for me personally, it's next level stuff.
Here's the point that I've been working my way towards, and I'll formulate it better because I'm still trying to work through how I want to portray this. But there's a disconnect between us creators and the consumers in that we have a tendency to write about, create things about the tools and the things that we're doing. So if you are a creator, something like a Zettelkasten, the slipbox concept of connecting notes to each other can have a lot of value. Like what you're saying, like you do a lot of writing, you do a lot of creating of content in some form, and a Zettelkasten does really well with that. The bulk of the population doesn't do that.
Yep.
So the vast majority of people who are consuming the content that we make doesn't need a Zettelkasten. So
yeah, I know.
Like even in the chat, Otter's got a point. It's like, makes me want a research project. Well, if you don't have things that you're making on a regular basis, it doesn't make sense. It's overkill. You don't need to take the time to go through and do all this unless you want to get to the point where you are a regular writer of some kind. So I don't think most people need this, but the problem is that you and I and other folks in the space need tools or want tools like this, so we tend to write about them, but the general population doesn't use them. That's the disconnect.
To be honest, when we went through that book the first time, I had the same thought. I'm like, this is great for research projects. I don't want a research project. So no, I'm not going to do this.
Yeah.
And that's
why I generalize it into writers and creators.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be just the research side.
I took one look at the apps that were available and I'm like, nope.
Yep.
And I know you mentioned, well, maybe you can do this with NVAlt and plain text files. And I'm like, it's too much work.
Yeah. I actually got it to where it was pretty simple for a while. So
yeah, no, I think you totally could do that with those tools. Just like Obsidian, that's basically what they are, is separate text files.
Right.
That's not the way that I use it. And this is kind of the thing, is like I needed to figure out how I could apply that methodology to the way that I write and have it provide any sort of benefit.
Sure.
But I've got that now, and I realize, oh, well, yeah, that's really cool. And the tipping point could have been the first time that I read How to Take Smart Notes, but it wasn't, because I was like, research projects, no. And then I saw Thomas Frank publish a video about it, and I'm like, well, that's interesting, and that gave me a few ideas. And I saw Drew Kaufman publish a video about it, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting, and that gave me a few ideas. And then I was like, I wonder if I could use it to do this, and create my own cross-reference library. And that's kind of the point where it's like, aha,
yeah,
now I get how this works. I wonder if it could it can do that too. Great. Because the problem, just speaking to the cross-reference notes for a moment, I take sermon sketch notes in GoodNotes. I have paid for very expensive Bible software. I actually have a library for Logos and for Accordance. Two separate multi-$100 Bible software apps. And they're great. You can go look up the original Greek and Hebrew and stuff like that. But all the notes that you would take and those sorts of things are in that app. It's so annoying. So it's like trying to copy and paste from there into something else. And they're making you have the stupid little references to the work in Logos. And I don't want that. I just want this all in one place. And I want all this stuff to connect. I want idea soup. And that's what Rome Research gives me.
Well, just to make a point of clarification, How to Take Smart Notes is not about Rome.
It's not. You don't have to use Rome. I will, although if you've been paying attention, I don't know why you would, because you are eschewing the Romans.
I think it's overhyped. I think it's ridiculous.
Sankey Aarons, though, did not too long ago say this is the tool that I'm using. So if he were to rewrite how to take smart notes, he would be telling you how to do it inside of Rome Research because he's publicly professed, yeah, this is the best tool for that.
Sure. I still don't think most people need it.
They don't.
Just saying.
Completely fair.
Like, I get it when, like, I get it's shiny new. What happens when there's new shiny elsewhere that does it even better? How are you going to get your notes out? How are you going to get it moved over? It sounds like an absolute disaster to try to do that.
It's all
usually is.
It's all marked down. It's easy. That's one of the first things I did was see if I could get stuff out.
Uh-huh. They've said that about Ulysses. They've said that about I don't know how many different things. Bear, and it's always a pain, and you have to do a lot of manual editing to clean it up every time.
No, I get it. I get it. But for me, it's not new shiny. That's the difference. I eschew the new shiny. This came out, and I had a friend who was really jacked about it. And actually, when you first told me about it, I'm like, sure. You get excited about every new app, and it's gone in a month.
Yep.
So no, I'm not even gonna look at this one.
That's how I feel about Rome. Like if it's that good, in a year and a half's time, it'll be just fine.
Exactly. Exactly.
I don't see it at the moment.
Sure.
So
that's fair.
It's too new. It's still a baby.
It is. But since it's plain text, I'm not too scared about it, but we'll see. I admit that could end up biting me. All right. So that's my last official one. Any other ratings you want to change?
I don't think so. I planned on the 5, and I feel like I should stay there.
Okay.
I mean, I could go through and probably do them all in some form, but I think, we're not here to curate every rating on Bookworm every single time.
Maybe that'll be episode 200.
Yeah, they're already talking about it. We need to sort them.
No, that sounds like not very entertaining if you ask me, but this was fun. And I feel like the ratings are a little bit more accurate now, maybe.
Yeah. I'll give it that. Yeah.
So cool. Well, thanks everybody for listening to us ramble on about episode 100, picking our 5 ratings we want to change. Thank you, Joe, for being my guinea pig for the quiz.
As much as I make it sound like I didn't want to do that, it was fun.
It was fun. You did a great job with it. I like how you were thinking out loud into the microphone like I thought maybe you would. If this would have been me taking this quiz, it would have been extremely boring because I just would have been like totally quiet and then given my answer.
Yeah,
I don't think out loud. So it wouldn't have worked the other way, but this was really cool. And like I said, I'll make a PDF version of this for people who want to download the 11 questions and want to quiz themselves. Starting with the next episode, we'll be back to normal. So we'll be following up on the action items from episode 99, which was The Motive by Patrick Lencioni. There's not a whole lot on that list, but there are a couple that you had, Joe. And then that episode we'll be picking up on the standard cadence where I pick, Joe picks back and forth. Joe picked the last one, episode 99, before this special episode 100. So the next book that we're going to cover for next time is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. And after that, you've got one, Joe.
So after that, we're going to pick up Randy Zuckerberg's book, Pick 3. I forget what that 3 are. I'd have to look it up again, but we got some time. We'll talk about it more next time. But I just know that when I first saw it, I was like, oh, Mark Zuckerberg. And, oh, wait, nope, Randy. I need to figure out what the connection is between those two, if there is any, before we actually record that one.
Sure. You got any gap books between now and then?
No, and I should, because we didn't have a book for this round. So I really should have done a gap book, but really I just used it to take a break.
That's fine. Totally understandable. I do have a gap book. I found that Austin Kleon has a new book called Keep Going. And I found he's got an affiliation, or maybe just they're in the same area as the company Book People down in Austin. So if you order the book from Book People, you can actually get a signed copy. So I have a signed copy by Austin Kleon. And it's a typical Austin Kleon book, very visual. think there's 10 chapters in it. So it shouldn't take very long to get through. Some of Austin Kleon's books in the past have been very influential for me, specifically Steal Like an Artist. So I'm excited to go through this one. And hopefully we'll do that by the time we record the next episode.
Nice. Well, one of the things we've done over the span of 100 episodes is we've started offering the Bookworm membership. So you can join the club at bookworm.fm/membership. And that gets you access to a special area in the community forums, which are at club.bookworm.fm. And when you do that, you get a special wallpaper, which if you're watching us live on Twitch, you'll actually see that wallpaper whenever we end here. But that particular wallpaper is one that Mike put together. You'll get access to some old Gap Book episodes that I did a while back. Mike's been posting his MindNode files or pictures thereof. And there's just some extra goodies that come with that. So if that's of interest to you, you want to help us keep the lights on, go to bookworm.fm/membership. We'd love to have you as part of the club.
All right. So thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks to everyone who chimed in for the live recording here on Twitch. We'll put a link to that if you want to join us in the future. If you're reading along, pick up Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, and we will talk to you in a couple of weeks.